For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for your attention today. Well, I got to tell you, over the past few months, I have been signing off from my syndicated radio show called Top of the Charts. And yes, when I say for the past couple of months I've been signing off, it's like Cher and a farewell tour. I've made that joke so many times because earlier in the year, I had announced that I was going to be leaving the show, right? I hosted the show. I started out in my parents' basement over 15 years ago. And in January, I came to that conclusion, and I said, you know what, it's just time. And people have asked me why, and I'll be honest with everybody, it's that I just don't like the top 40 music that comes out nowadays. It's so computerized, there's just no love in the music that comes out. And we're such a disposable society now that, you know, we just don't cherish and appreciate music like we used to. And so because of that, that's one part of it. And then also the whole celebrity world, the whole entertainment game has changed so much. And for me, saying no more to red carpets was at the AMAs a couple years ago now, I guess, right? Because red carpets weren't really happening anymore. But I was relegated to a spot on the red carpet. I was on the digital red carpet. I wasn't part of the broadcast red carpet, which to me seemed odd. And I had been having a fight with ABC previously, and, you know, their make nice was, okay, we'll get you a spot on the red carpet. And so I said, well, why aren't I on the broadcast red carpet? Because radio is broadcast. And they said, well, no, the radio is on the digital red carpet. I said, well, that doesn't make sense, though, because radio is broadcast, just like television is broadcast. They're both the same thing. And it struck me odd, but I was like, all right, fine, I'll go. And I was in amongst a bunch of bloggers, YouTubers, not traditional broadcast people, not people who had gone to journalism school like I had, you know, people who didn't, you know, host a nationally syndicated radio show. And none of the artists from the show, now I'm trying to think of all the people. So we had Keith Urban there, Pink was there, you know, and then just the big star, Post Malone. None of them were really doing interviews on this side of the red carpet. See, people don't realize that there were kind of two sides to the red carpet. You had the one that had Ryan Seacrest and, you know, all the other big names, and then you had us on the other side. And so the people that were coming down our side of the red carpet were YouTubers, and I don't know that TikTok was a thing. Maybe it was, I guess. But it was people that were considered celebrities now, and it's like, I have no idea who you are. I have no interest in you. I've never heard of you. I don't know what you do. I just felt like an old curmudgeon. And so that was kind of why we said, I put my foot down and I said, no more red carpets. I'm just not doing it. Because I'm used to it being a smaller red carpet with not, you know, tons and tons of people. And again, it used to be considered you were a media outlet. Now it's, you know, it's a person. And I just said, like, that's not for me. I'm not doing that. I've spent too many years on the radio to be the end of a digital red carpet where you don't actually get traditional celebrities. You know, like, there's just, I'm not doing it. It was a waste of time. I was embarrassed, especially at being a radio host on a bunch of different stations, and it was being promoted that, you know, JB was going to be at the AMAs. You know, we're going to go to different, you know, live reports and things like that. And I really had nobody. I had nothing. And I couldn't even pretend to be interested in these people. You know, you got a publicist who comes by a few minutes before or a few seconds before. Oh, this is so-and-so. They've got a new album. They're doing whatever. And I'm like, I don't know who they are. And they have no idea who I am. We don't care about each other. But at that point, I was just like, I'm not even going to pretend. I just can't do it. And so that was the end. That was the end of my red carpet kind of thing. And so that's why, I don't like music. It was harder. But now because everybody's a broadcaster, right? Everybody's got a podcast. Everybody's got a YouTube channel. It's just become so increasingly difficult to even, get interview requests put through, right? And I mean, that's where I sort of feel for publicists, right? Because you've got everybody who thinks they're anybody is coming at them with interview requests. And, I've been able to ride on the relationships that I have with the major TV networks and the record labels and things like that. But again, there's just so many more opportunities for these artists to have a 5-minute phone call that, you're sort of brushed by the wayside because I'm not this, YouTube sensation or whatever it is. So that was kind of what went into the thought of leaving the show. And from that point on, when I kind of made that announcement and came to that conclusion, my team of, we've got 7 people, it was kind of like, oh crap, we've got to put on, kind of a good final show. And at the end, it was always going to be for me, right? Because that's something that's going to stick with me forever. I don't know that anybody, aside from, let's say, the TV finales of like Seinfeld or Friends, they're just, you don't have that kind of big moment. And on the flip side of that, you have so many TV shows that get canceled where they don't get to have an actual sort of decent goodbye anyway. So at this, it's like, the clock is ticking. I know that we've got a few months to put something together. And we had a bunch of different ideas. And some of them just didn't work out, which was disappointing. And then others, like we kind of went ahead with it. And then I was like, I don't really like how this turned out. So I'm not comfortable with that being the final show. And now think about it. From January until the end of March, beginning of April, we had gone through a couple of different concepts, even to the point where we had taped a bunch of them. And I would almost say basically had an entirely complete show. And then I was like, no, I don't like it. It's not strong enough. It's not good enough. And so we said, okay, well, we'll circle around, right? This is where the Cher reference comes in, because how many times has she had, I'm retiring, I'm done, and then here I am now, middle of April, end of April, beginning of May, end of May, beginning of June, where it's like, why am I still hosting this show? But it was my doing. I was prolonging it. I was milking it. I was just like, I'm not comfortable with the sign off, so I'm going to keep hosting this show until we get one that I'm really, really happy with. And we did that. And I'm very excited to say that we taped my final radio show in Nashville, Tennessee. 15 years on the radio. For that, 10 or 12 of the years, actually, I was hosting a country music show called The Open Road. And we had tons of country artists, right? We had Dolly Parton. I was in Kenny Rogers' dressing room doing an interview before a show. We had Terry Clark, we had Loretta Lynn, we had the Oak Ridge Boys, who we just taped a couple of days ago. Again, they've been on with me so many times. And we've had Leanne Rimes, we've had, so many big names that I was out walking the dogs a couple of weeks ago. Well, I guess about a month or so ago now. And just something came to me where it was just like, Nashville, Music City. That's got to be it. Now, remember, we've done travel programming for how many years on the radio as well. So not uncommon for us to work with a tourism board and get something in the works. And so I was walking, I got back, sent an email or text or something to one of the people here. And within about 2 or 3 days, it was rolling. And I said in a bunch of different brainstorming meetings and sessions, I was like, oh my God, I have to do my final sign off on the Grand Ole Opry stage. Like, make this happen, you guys. Make it happen. And can you believe it that we did it? I taped it earlier in June, and we did this under the cover of darkness. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what was going on. And again, it wasn't even because it was like hush, hush, top secret, because at the end of the day, I realized that people aren't, enthralled with my life. People aren't sitting there wanting to know what I'm having for breakfast. I get that. And I don't put that out there because I know that people don't care. But it was still kind of fun to sort of sneak around and go, oh my God, we're really producing something on the Grand Ole Opry stage, and nobody even knows that I'd left Canada, really? Okay, there's something kind of fun about that. And we did. So we taped some travel programming throughout the city, and then we did some stuff at the Opry. So that's going to air on the radio in the next couple of weeks. But on this show, on the podcast today, 10 minutes into the story, we have a bunch of celebrity interviews that we had taped earlier this year as part of the final sign-off. Now, some of them were intended to be on the very, very last show, and others were just kind of, well, it's heading up to the finale, so, let's do this segment. And we've got all of them for you today on the show, okay? So the great thing about a podcast is you've likely read the description of this episode already, so you know who's on the show. So legendary singer Tom Cochrane, who's from my home province of Manitoba, was first on the radio with me back at Canada's Walk of Fame. That was, I think, one of the first red carpets that I'd ever covered in Toronto. And Tom was one of the very first celebrities that I interviewed, outside of, let's say, Canadian Idol, which, the contestants on that show, you could maybe consider them celebrities at the time. But certainly the Walk of Fame red carpet was my first kind of real exposure to this to a celebrity red carpet. So Tom called in as a surprise guest on the radio show. We've got that segment here for you as well. Dean Brody is a country singer from Canada, from the West Coast, who has been on the radio with me several times. And years ago, back when he was doing a concert in Winnipeg, my hometown, I happened to be in Winnipeg at the time as well. Remember, my time is split between Winnipeg and West Hollywood. And Dean was doing a concert. I was invited, tickets to the show, and I said, I want to do an interview with Dean. Let's do another chat. He was on with us for our Canada 150 celebration, so when Canada celebrated 150 years, Dean was one of the artists that we had, because we had somebody from each province and territory in Canada at the time. Pretty cool. We did a live show. And so with Dean, we ended up, I think it was like a couple weeks after that, I'd said, all right, well, you know what, I'm still in Canada, so let's do an interview. And so we did a chat in his dressing room. And so Dean was a surprise guest on the radio a couple weeks, I guess. Actually, I think it was probably in April when we were supposed to do the sign-off. Ben Mulroney is an he's a host, a TV host in Canada, and he was the host of Canadian Idol. And he's been on with me, I think, almost every year at some point. We did a Corona special. He was talking about what he was binge-watching, how he was getting through shutdowns. He was on with us for, he would preview award shows sometimes. He was on for our 10th anniversary, I think our 13th anniversary. And he was a surprise guest for our 15th anniversary, my final year, my final anniversary. So Ben came on to talk about his time as an entertainment host, what he remembers from his first visit to Hollywood, different celebrity run-ins that he's had, so it was great chatting with Ben. And Leeza Gibbons. Leeza Gibbons was on, again, Winnipeg Radio when I was getting started. Her syndicated show was broadcast throughout Canada and the U.S. Leeza was on with us when she was back on Celebrity Apprentice years ago. That was, oh my God, maybe 10 years ago. And it was just really nice because she's always so positive. She's optimistic. We had this issue with ducks in our respective backyards in West Hollywood a couple years ago. And we kind of bonded about that a few years ago. And she's an animal rescuer, and so she loves my little puppy Charlie. So Leeza was on, and again, kind of talking about her. Remember, she was the host of Entertainment Tonight, or co-host of ET for so many years. And we talked about that and how our broadcast industries have changed, both for radio and then even just covering entertainment. So, and then Jagmeet Singh. Oh my God, I got to tell you, he's the leader of the NDP in Canada, right? So this is somebody who wants to be the prime minister. He's the leader of a federal party. The NDP in Canada, if you know, in the U.S., basically he would be sort of the one who's challenging. If I'm comparing it to the United States, he'd be the challenger of the president, is what it is. So kind of like the runner-up in a sense. And so if you were to have an election or whatever, you might have Justin Trudeau winning, but Jagmeet would be, I think, a close second. And so one of the ideas that we had was that we wanted to have the federal party leaders from Canada call in. So that meant having Justin Trudeau call in. But he's been fucking up Canada so badly during this coronavirus vaccine thing, the shutdowns and all this other stuff, that it doesn't surprise me that the dickhead didn't have time to make it onto my final radio show, even though the invite had been out there for at least 5 months. And then they actually just stopped. They actually stopped answering our phone calls and emails. Yeah, this is a public office funded by taxpayers, had just gone dark on us, and so we really played hardball, from what I understand. This we were threatening. We were saying, we're going to tell everybody about this, and now look at, I just called him a name and swore about him. So we didn't have Justin Trudeau, but we had Jagmeet, and it was really cool because I said to him, I want to talk to you as a human being. You're not coming on as a politician. You're not going to, no, you're not doing that. We're going to have a regular human-to-human conversation, and it was a really nice chat. So those are the 5 segments. Having given you this big, long explanation, now almost 15 minutes into the show, that's what you're hearing on the Scribble this week, is the compilation, our mixtape, if you will, from one of the final episodes of the radio show. Now, when it comes to that stuff that I told you in Nashville, we might have to do that on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, but certainly this was our kind of big celebrity hurrah. And I'm actually going to listen along. Normally we would just drop the clips in and I'd be on my way, but I want to listen to them because some of these were taped a few months ago and I haven't heard them since, and I'm just going to soak it in with you as well. It starts on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
As I wrap up 15 years on the radio, you know what song comes to mind? It's Life is a Highway. And my thoughts now when I'm going to be off the air is I'm going to ride it all night long, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where...
Hey, brother, you owe me a couple of bucks for that.
Hi.
Tom Cochrane calling.
Oh, my God.
A happy retirement. Just to say that, aside from owing me a couple of bucks for that one, you can... you're too young to retire, brother. You've done a great job up there with your supplemental.
Well, there we are, everybody.
And your opinions, and that's good, man. It's that it's bad that you're retiring, and I was the first red carpet that you were working, and at the Walk of Fame, and I was inducted into the Walk of Fame. So one of your first interviews in this capacity. So man, it comes full circle.
It is. Well, no, it'll be full circle when you're interviewing me about my Walk of Fame induction, which won't happen. That's not going to happen. We know. But everybody, listen, Tom Cochrane, fellow Manitoban, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going. I'm not going to lie, Jeremy. These are, strange times, and they're testing our resolve. Our sector, of course, has been hit really hard, the music sector. And I really enjoy playing live, as so many of my compatriots and friends do. And it's been tough on us, and hopefully we're going to be able to get back to it someday soon. But, with that said, I've got, can you believe it, the 40th anniversary as far as I am, which Lunatic Fringe is on. And so we're going to, I guess Universal's going to release that in the fall. And hopefully we'll be able to do some shows off that at that point. Who knows yet?
Yeah.
But, and also we're going to, that's going to be in conjunction with the 35th anniversary of the Tom Cochrane Red Rider album, which of course has Boy Inside the Man on it and Untouchable One and a bunch of those songs. So looking forward to that. And I've been writing, doing a lot of writing, and up north, I'm doing a lot of fat tire biking on snowy trails and muddy trails and icy trails, and to stay in shape. And it's been like everybody. We're hoping that we can get back to some semblance of normalcy someday soon, right?
I mean, that's the thing. All the artists have had to do this whole streaming performance thing, but I mean, I'm sure you can attest that there's nothing like a live crowd right there in front of you, though.
No, and it gets irritating, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
Just inundated with requests to do, virtual concerts.
Sure.
When you can only do so many things in your living room and in your home studio, where you set up your iPhone on a stand or tape it to a broomstick that you got hiked up in the corner, and do a performance. I'm joking around, of course. My setup's a little more elaborate than that, but I mean, exactly. That it does not replace live at all.
But it's interesting, Beer, because artists from my generation, your generation, I mean, you're used to having to slug it out, right? And go town to town, show to show, bar to bar. And today's artists who basically have grown up in the YouTube age or Facebook or whatever, I mean, they almost have that instant audience right there. So, I mean, the struggles of having to really hustle to get noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the landscape has changed, but to a certain degree in terms of how you get out there and you promote yourself. And the streaming thing has changed the playing field a lot, obviously. But you know what? The bands still have to get out there, Jeremy. Mm-hmm. I think what's changed a lot is the internet's broken down barriers. So, my son-in-law, for instance, out of New Jersey, was in a band called the Drowners, and they'd go to Europe and they'd end up sleeping on people's couches and then those people would come back to the United States or Canada and they'd sleep on other people's couches. So the networking like that has become pretty comprehensive with a lot of these kids, and they pay their dues. I mean, don't kid yourself. It's still about live. It's still about getting out there. And even though some guy might be a VJ or DJ, I should say, and he might be doing EDM music, it's still about people getting together and celebrating the music in that live venue. And it's still about packing up in those rugged hours in a van and in a tour bus or a station wagon like we did. The kids are still doing that stuff, and there's no way around it. Music is about live. It's a big part of what we all do as musicians, and that part of it hasn't changed. I think these kids are still paying their dues.
Let me just segue into this. Is it true? Do you have a highway in Manitoba? Did I see that on the news a few years ago?
Yeah, there's a highway that was named after me, after my song, actually. Life is a Highway, which goes from Thompson, Manitoba, up to my hometown where I was born, Lynn Lake. And it's quite a long highway. It's 391, and I forget how many kilometers, but it's a couple of 100 kilometers up there. So I was really very honored, and that was relatively the same period that I got inducted into, invested in the Manitoba,
mm-hmm.
The Order of Manitoba. So I was very, very proud of that in particular, but the highway was quite an honor.
Okay, so next logical question, and don't worry, no one's listening to this. Have you just ripped down that stretch? I mean, do you just go, if there's one road you should be allowed to speed on, it's that one. Have you done it, Tom? Don't lie.
That one. It could be master of ceremonies there, Jeremy. We could have I thought about this. I thought maybe we should do a car rally for charity. That stretch from Thompson up to Lynn Lake. And we'd film the whole thing, and it'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, let's then talk about some of those honors you mentioned about Manitoba. We met at Canada's Walk of Fame. What does that mean for you as a musician, as a recording artist, as a storyteller, as a Canadian, to get these different kinds of honors in your career?
Well, I've always, I've always kind of wanted to do the music for the sake of doing the music. So when I started out with Red Rider, and we get nominated for a Juno, I mean, it got to a point there, I think we were nominated 11 or 12 times before we actually won a Juno. So it kind of forced us to kind of be realistic and be, we're kind of a blue-collar band, and we put all the emphasis on our fans and on playing the music and kind of downplay the awards. But I'm not going to lie to you, it means a lot to me. The Order of Manitoba, being an officer of the Order of Canada, Walk of Fame and these things in the Hall of Fame, Canadian Music Hall of Fame. It means a lot. It's nice to be acknowledged by your peers and by the public, and it definitely is something that I'm very, very proud of that history, and I'm very, very proud Canadian, as you know, and a proud Manitoban. So it's nice to get those accolades and that. But still, the emphasis when I stand out in front of an audience, or somebody comes up to me and they say, Life's a Highway or Big League got me through some really tough times. Boy, that in itself is like getting an award. The satisfaction of knowing that you helped somebody get through some tough times because your music inspired them a little bit, that means a lot. And that, and also being asked to present Gordon Lightfoot or the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Spokane Awards, or those things mean a lot to me. It's, there's a guy who I look up to who inspired me starting out. Hopefully, inspired a lot of young artists. And so I'm very, very honored and flattered to be asked to present awards to people that I've looked up to and that have inspired me in my career. That almost is as good as getting an award myself.
What would you say was the biggest struggle? Actually, let me ask this two ways. What was the biggest struggle, and what was the biggest reward, the biggest payoff that you had?
Oh, boy. The biggest struggle, I mean, of course, is getting started, getting a record contract, getting that first record out there and trying to decide. I remember my dad, who was always the ultimate hero to me. I looked up to my dad and I said, Dad, am I doing the right thing? And this is just on the cusp of White Hot kicking in. And I was going through a lot of soul searching, whether this was worth it, because as we talked, there's all those times sleeping in a station wagon. I mean, we didn't have money for hotels every night, so we roughed it pretty good. And he said, no, I think you're crazy to do it. I think you're crazy to be doing this. When I asked him, do you think I should be doing this? And he said, but it's not up to me. It's up to you, son. He said, they thought I was crazy when I got out of World War II and I wanted to be a pilot to make a living. I could have gone to Burns Meats in Winnipeg and maybe fast-tracked as an executive there, but he said, I wanted to be a pilot. They all thought I was crazy. And he said, I don't have any regrets. So he said, don't have any regrets. Just give it 150%. Promise me that. And know when it's time to get out. So we released that first record, and of course, White Hot did what it did, and that song led to the next record, and Lunatic Fringe, and did what it did, and so on. And you're always on contract, though, buddy. You've always got to prove yourself. So every record, you're proving yourself. The next period was when we left management, left Bruce Allen, and the band sort of fragmented, and we kind of, like the Phoenix rising from the dust came out of that. Capitol supported us, so did what became Live Nation. CPI became Live Nation, and they supported us on the next tour, and that was the Tom Cochrane Red Rider album with More Inside the Man, which I mentioned the 35th anniversary this year. So, I've been very blessed, and it takes a lot of perseverance, but it takes quite a bit of luck too, Jeremy, and I've had both. I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of help from some great people who believed in me, and I try to be grateful about that every day, and I'm really lucky to be able to make a living at my hobby. Again, something my dad told me, he said, if you can make a living at your hobby, then God's smiling on you. So I've been lucky to do that, because it's he once said about flying airplanes, he said, I have the best office in the world.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel when I get on stage and I'm able to put smiles on people's faces and have them sing those songs. Man, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world,
Well, I mean, and again, here's hoping that can happen again soon. I mean, maybe this summer. I mean, that's sort of sketchy, but sometime soon, if we're all optimistic and we follow those rules that they set out for us, I think it'll happen sooner than later.
Yeah. And if they get the darn vaccines out to us quicker, we've got to, we've got some shows towards the end of the summer. We've actually moved some PAC dates, unfortunately, into February from the fall. Mm-hmm. But we do have some shows that we're still hanging on to at the end of the summer and into the early fall. So hopefully we'll be able to get those shows in. And, we were supposed to celebrate the 150th birthday of Manitoba. We were supposed to there's a number of those shows that we've had to postpone. So hopefully we're going to be able to get those in within the next year or so.
Well, hopefully. That's one of those things that last year when this whole lockdown thing started, I mean, we had the big question of, if I don't celebrate my birthday this year, did I get 1 year older? So maybe Manitoba will be 150, again.
Yeah, on pause.
As we look at aging that way, baby.
We've all become collective Rip Van Winkle, So we just put everything on pause. It's just a big gap.
Our younger audience can Google that. Absolutely. All right. So, and your website and social media, I guess, is where people can stay up to date with those dates if they change or when things happen, right? Yeah.
The website, social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So, Facebook, and they can get on there and they'll see what's going on.
We met 2009. It meant a lot to me to do a red carpet and interview, iconic Canadians. And the fact that you're coming back, it's a full circle moment for me. So thank you so much for calling in.
Hey, my pleasure, Jeremy. And best of luck in whatever you, continue doing, hopefully in broadcasting and journalism, because you're damn good at it. These are wonderful questions. It's was great talking to you, buddy, and hopefully we'll do more of it down the line.
Down the highway. Let's do that. Let's have that rally and let's just rip down that road. We're gonna break a speed limit or two.
Yeah.
All right, Tom.
brother.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Have a good one. My pleasure. Thanks, Jeremy.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
You know, everyone's asking me what I'm going to do this summer, right? It's my first summer off. I think I've worked since I was 13 out at the lake. And truth is, I'm just going to relax, spend some quality time with my guys, right? Good times with my boys, or boys or men. I don't even know. What is the difference? Is there a difference between boys and men? Like, I don't know.
Funny you should say that, Jeremy. I mean, I think there is. Actually, I have a song called Boys, and yeah, there's a big difference, dude.
Hi, who is that? Wait, you have a song called...
Oh, sorry, maybe I should
Is
say
this
this
Dean...
but this is Dean Brody.
Oh my God, Dean Brody crashing my show. Of all people, you know what? I would expect you would do that, Dean. How's it going?
Good, yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just
Well-
had to. Yeah, how you doing, Jeremy?
Well, good. You know, we go way back, right? I think one of the last times that we talked, I was in your dressing room and we were talking about your underwear because we had listener questions sent in, I think is what happened.
Oh, yeah, briefs or boxers, maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, here, once you've had that conversation with a guy, I mean, you know, you guys are tight, right? I mean, that's a lifelong thing now.
Yeah, once you get down to the nitty-gritty, you're in good company.
No better icebreaker conversation. But so let's talk about Mr. Number One, Dean Brody here. Your song "Boys" just hit number one in Canada. So congrats on that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, such an awesome milestone. Of course, to share it with Mickey Guyton, an amazing singer. It's actually her first number one too, and she's signed out of Nashville, but she has a huge affinity for Canadians, and actually some of her best friends in Nashville are songwriters and fellow Canadians. So, man, it meant the world to her. I called her up and said, "Hey, Mickey," and she didn't know what it was for. She's been so busy with the ACMs and the Grammys and all that, and I said, "Hey, we got a number one." She's like, "No way." And she said it's her first number one, and of course, she's just recently gave birth to Grayson, her first son. And so for that to happen around the same time as Boys was just really sweet for her, too.
Now, I know I've heard you tell this story about recording the song together, but not together.
Yeah, we've yet to meet. We've actually not met in person yet. This has been a complete COVID experience. Talked multiple times on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, but yeah, she recorded in her bedroom her part for Boys, and I recorded my part with in a little frat house in downtown Toronto at the top of the stairs, singing into this little mic. And yeah, it's just the day and age we're in right now. And you know what? I was saying this to somebody last week, like, even if there was no COVID, usually your touring schedules are so in conflict with each other, you end up recording separate anyway. Even a lot of duets are like that these days.
And I love the video for Boys. Lots of great pictures. Sort of, it's like a slideshow in a sense. And not that we ever get too serious when we talk, but looking at those photos back in the day, you were kind of a hottie back then, hey? Even as a youngster.
Oh, thank you. What?
What do you, I mean, when you go through all of those pictures, though, right? I mean, you're looking back at your childhood. I mean, we did that recently at my grandparents' house. You find these old photos, and then there's just such great stories attached to them. What did all of those photos mean to you?
It kind of brings everything full circle for me. There's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in those photos. And, it reminds me where I've come from and how it's hard for me to get back there. Like, I realize I've become quite a modern guy, traveling a lot and living in different cities, and to get back to my roots. It's been nice. I've been able to get back to my roots lately. Just came out west and just hanging out with family here, and the woods are right out back. I go out there quite a bit now with the dog and just hang out up in the woods, and it's nice. It's nice to come full circle, but you realize, wow, I was from a pretty hillbilly kind of area and time.
Yeah. Listen to you talk about a modern guy. You've become a superstar. Don't give me this crap. You've become a superstar, Dean, okay?
Well, I've been very fortunate, and there's been so many people that have helped me get there, and I do realize, and certainly don't take for granted where I'm at, and it's been a long, hard road, but a good road.
Mm-hmm.
It's good memories, man, and so happy to. I was just talking to once in a while. I'll talk to Terry Clark or Dwayne Steele or Charlie Major, people that I looked up to, like idolized when I was a kid, and to be friends with them now and to be able to just hang out. It's like, yeah, it's just so wild. I never would have thought in a million years back then that I would have a career that would allow me to meet these people and just be buzzed. It's amazing. It's been an awesome journey.
That's one of the craziest things too. Even for me on the radio in 15 years, I grew up playing these people's songs, right, and their music, and then now here I am talking with you, or hanging out in your dressing room, or now doing selfies with Dolly Parton, or when Kenny Rogers was in Winnipeg, hanging out with him in his dressing room, and just you kind of put that face to the name, and you're just like, wow, especially country artists too, something so genuine and friendly and welcoming about the whole community.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome family to belong to. And by family, I don't just mean like country family, but the Canadian music scene is really wonderful. And, when we go to the Junos and stuff, we're all in a business that's very unique, and it's hard to describe it even to family. You try to describe what it's like, and Dad kind of looks at you with a blank look on his face, like not knowing what you're talking about. But we've got this family of musicians and crew and everybody that survives off of this industry and their love for music, and it's awesome. It's great to have.
We're going on over a year since everything shut down, got canceled, what have you. I mean, you've got to miss the big concert stage, right? Like, I mean, we see the artists now performing in their living rooms, right, doing these online, these streaming things, but you must get such a different energy from thousands of people in front of you as opposed to a computer screen.
Oh, yeah, I think we're all really tired of the live streams now. We're just like, okay, I've had enough. I know all of us as musicians are just like, it's not what live music's about. Live music was about sharing it. It started as kitchen parties or somebody bringing a ukulele out, a campfire. That's where the energy is. That's where our love for live performing is. Singing to a camera alone in a room is just not that. So I can't wait to get back out and, playing live shows. I did a live stream from the Commodore in Vancouver, and all of us are used to just playing that room. It's totally jammed full of people, so much energy. I did my last live stream from there, and it was really, really weird because it was dark. There was like 3 of us in the whole room, and I was singing to an audience I couldn't see. And it was just brought home to me how desperate I am to get out and play for a bunch of people in a bar even would just be great.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? It's so unpredictable, even just coming up to this summer, the summer concert season. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? How do you plan for that? I mean, I guess, like, what's next for you? Like, how do you plan your music career right now?
I'm just writing. Like, for me, I'm writing right now. Just enjoying my time off and hanging with the dog and hanging out in the woods and just kind of reconnecting with where I'm from. It's been awesome to come back to BC and just kind of hunker down in this bubble here. But yeah, right now I'm just in the writing phase. It's nice. I can't say that it's all bad, but yeah, I can't wait to get out there and play live shows again with the band.
I think, everybody's longing for that human interaction, that face-to-face contact that we've been missing.
For sure.
Yeah, and so any plans for a new album? I know you put out an album last year. If you're writing, where do we see that going in the next few months, couple years?
Yeah, I think maybe tail end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll have a full album ready to go again.
Well, we're going to be watching, and so we'll check out the music. DeanBrody.com is the website, right?
I think so. I haven't been there for a while, but yeah. And also Instagram at Dean Brody. Or Facebook as well. That's mostly where I connect with people is on Instagram.
Yeah, and to everybody listening, I can say, Dean is such a genuine person. Like I said, to be hanging out in the dressing room before a show, I know there's so much on your mind before a concert that it was great that you made the time, and I appreciate you calling in today. It was awesome to connect with you again.
Yeah, dude, thanks so much, and congrats on 15 years. That's amazing.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Looking back at 15 years of hosting this show, I was thinking about the people who were in the industry when I was just getting started, and Leeza Gibbons was one of those people whose her syndicated show was on the station where I was at in Winnipeg. So how cool is it that all these years later, and this isn't the first time we're chatting because she was on with us during Celebrity Apprentice, the fabulous Leeza Gibbons is on the line. Hello again, Leeza.
My friend, how cool to be talking with you again is right, and having a look back, the great optics on where we've been and where we're going.
And, we also have this connection a few years ago with the random ducks that were in our yards. In my backyard in West Hollywood, it was cute but a little strange, wasn't it?
You know what? It was, and it continues for me. I spend a lot of time in the desert now, and it's getting kind of creepy now. I'm feeling targeted by the ducks in some sort of sick way.
Wait a second, Lisa's usually the positive one here. I'm not going to have to talk you out of this, am I? Jeez.
Right. I always heard, I don't know, birds are good luck and birds are spirits from the other side. I'm not sure what ducks represent. What do ducks represent, actually?
Oh boy, you're putting me on the spot. I'm not sure. They're some of them.
Come up with an answer, and I would have to call you right because I don't know. But yeah, that's really funny. That's one of the things that changed is from when you and I first became colleagues and doing interviews and doing our stuff on radio to where we are now. I would have had no way of knowing without social media that you and I were sharing a duck thing. But that's really been, I think, probably in politics, in health, in entertainment, in global uprisings. It's been the number one change agent for everything. The economic structure, our psychoanalytical structure, that's just been the thing, right?
Yeah, well, let's talk about how the industries have changed in a moment, but let's start at the beginning, because I love talking shop with my fellow entertainment hosts. We know you from Entertainment Tonight. You had your daytime talk show. You've done radio. So how, or maybe even why, did you get into broadcasting? Because, as you say, it's something that you need to have a passion for.
It's a very simple answer, and I wish my kids had a path chosen for them as directly as mine was chosen for me. But when I was in the 6th grade and we had a talent show at school, I mean, basically, Jeremy, and I'm not just being self-deprecating, I have no talent. I mean, anybody who saw my season on Dancing with the Stars knows I got no talent. I can't whistle. I can't hula hoop. It's just sad. So my mother said to me, but you've got a talent. You're a storyteller. So for the talent show at school, which I was so upset about, I stood in front of the class and I told a story, and I created this character based on my news hero, Walter Cronkite. And that was the beginning for me. And I thought, okay, bam, that's my label. I'm just going to tell stories and get paid for it.
And, the industries have changed. So, again, you've run the gamut of, radio, TV, you're an author. Showbiz in general, I guess, has changed. And so I always like to hear what your thoughts are on the evolvement. Because now we hear that, everybody's a writer, everybody's a broadcaster because of blogs and social media, respectively. I mean, it's giving people a platform, for good and bad, of course, as we see. But what do you think about, let's just say, the broadcast industry or show business?
Wow, big old open-ended question. You know what? I think that the audience is never wrong. And I believe that when you look at what are people opting into, what do they care about, where are they flocking to get their entertainment, I mean, that's just the right answer. So however it's going and however people are mitigating, and changing their business and their approach, those are the people that will last, and everybody else will be on the sidelines. It's like learning a new language, except for now you have to learn that new language every 6 months or something.
Right. I still don't know what a TikTok is, so I mean I'm far behind on the times.
Well, those of us who can't dance don't do TikTok because it's just too demoralizing.
Okay, let's use that word, demoralizing. We've all had our share of embarrassing moments on a live story or red carpet or something like that. Did you must have a moment where even something as it was coming out of your mouth, you're just like, this isn't, oh boy, I should just stop. Or like, that's going to have people talking. Do you have a moment that sticks out for you?
One of the great things that has allowed me to remain optimistic in my life is I have a really great reset button. I truly don't hang on to stuff. But there are, of course, awful moments. I mean, I was covering Michael Jackson getting his star, I think it was, in Hollywood, the Walk of Fame. There were police on horseback. It was the biggest mob scene of all time. And I had to opt out because I was nursing my child and my breast milk was all over my silk blouse. Just embarrassing things like that. Being shut down by Betty Davis. I've called people the wrong names. I've done everything that could go wrong over the course of a decades-long career. But it's all been like a laboratory for me, and when you look at celebrities and people who become famous, that's like a learning lab for character. And the really good people, it makes them better. And the people who have, flaws and defects and issues and demons or whatever, it brings those out too. So it's just been a great kaleidoscope of observation.
The good thing about broadcasting so many years ago is that those clips are long gone. I mean, some of them resurface, right? But now everything is almost like straight to YouTube the second that it happens.
I know. I feel so blessed every day. Some of that stuff isn't out there. We, as you know, I have a foundation to support families with Alzheimer's, and our staff, we were recently doing training to help unlearn our unconscious racial bias. And we use this program called Challenge Day, which is a super cool program that is for students and adults and businesses. It's really, really great to help you build your empathy and your compassion. But my team didn't know, and I chose not to share with them, that in the 90s, I had done a TV special about Challenge Day, like one of the first shows, I think, that was done on it. And they found this clip, and I'm wearing, like, platform shoes and clam diggers. And this is a documentary. It's a very serious topic about, depression and prejudice and anxiety and bullying. And I had on white glitter eyeshadow and my requisite false eyelashes. It was just the most ridiculous thing.
We're going to get those screen grabs tweeted out in a few minutes, okay? Is that all right with you?
So point being to your question, so I'm glad that a lot of stuff isn't out there. And I'm sure it's not as cringeworthy as I remember it, but surviving, being an entertainment reporter or an influencer or anyone who's really out front and center now, that's a language that I really don't have. As you know, I still host the Rose Parade, and I'm producing shows. I'm really focused on true crime, which has always been a passion of mine, and so I'm still involved in the business, but, my shift kind of getting into psychosocial support in the nonprofit world has really taken the place of a lot of that, and I feel I'm in awe of those people who have a thick enough skin to face it day in and day out. I'm not sure that I would.
And, we'll talk more about Leeza's Care Connection in a second, but I need to ask you then, where do you pull this positivity from? And I don't know if this is a weird question, but, what makes you happy?
You just decide to be. I believe, my mother always said, you're as happy as you want to be. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And, a lot of the momisms that I grew up with, like show up, do your best, let go of the rest. I don't know where I got the propensity to every day kind of reset, but I don't dwell on past failures. I get stuck like everybody does in thinking that my life should be on a schedule that matches somebody else's schedule, like, that I'm not where I should be, I'm not accomplishing enough, I'm not contributing enough, I'm not growing enough, all those things that we get stuck in. But I've tried to really reframe that. When somebody has something that I want, if it's a meditation practice or a relationship, or they're the kind of mom that I want to be, whatever it is, I acknowledge that person, say, good for her, and that's for me. And I think when we celebrate other people and when we give to other people, it just clears the way for us to be happier. At least it's kind of worked for me.
And you're helping people lead happier lives, as we've mentioned with Leeza's Care Connection. So if anybody's not familiar with the organization, let's give a quick rundown about all that you do.
I'd love you for that. It is a place where if you're a family member, husband, wife, son or daughter, and you have to answer that question, now what? When somebody gets diagnosed with a chronic illness or disease, we're there to help you figure it out with tips and tools and strategies and connect you to the resources that you need to survive. Because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. People who care for others are often overwhelmed with compassion fatigue, and they don't do well themselves. So we can change that number. We can give you back those 10 years that typically are erased from your life because of caregiver burden by focusing on wellness, focusing on empowerment, focusing on the education to survive it.
And so what's the website and social media where people can get more information?
Leeza's Care Connection.org, and that's our Instagram, and we're Leeza's Care Cafe on Twitter.
With so many projects.
It's a free service, JB.
Yeah.
It's all free for people. It's, you could be anonymous. We meet you where you are. If you're just feeling like you don't know what to do and your life is over because there's this big change and you can't figure it out, that's what we're there for.
It's just incredible that you do so much, and like I said, you're always so optimistic and positive. All of your pictures, of course, on social media are smiling. You just seem like such a genuinely happy person, and we need more of that, don't we, nowadays?
Well, we do. I think we've all kind of come. We all have shadow sides, and we need those shadow sides, and we need to. I take mental health breaks days off on a regular basis, where I just say, you know what, I just can't really participate at the level I want to today. I'm just gonna kind of go back in my little corner for a minute and regroup. And I think that it's why I'm so excited about what Megan and Harry are doing, and this big special, The Me That You Don't See, that they're doing. I think the focus on mental health right now is so positive and so powerful, and if we can take those conversations out of the shadows and recognize there's so many people battling these kind of invisible demons, and they look fine, but there's just a great need for us to understand mental health. So I'm very excited about the celebrities and the notables that are stepping up to support that cause. Glenn Close and so many others, Lady Gaga. It's really, I think, making a big difference.
And I have to say, just as you were saying that, happiness for me is a puppy, and so Charlie is saying hi, by the way.
Oh, you know what? I think that people and their pets, that is a key to your mental health and your happiness quotient. I'm here right now with my senior dog, Biggie, my rescue Biggie, who's, he's nuts. He's just nuts. Yeah. He doesn't like other dogs. He doesn't really like other people. but we love him so much, and he brings us so much happiness.
I was saying you're always so busy. Are you working on any other new projects in the near future? Like, what else do you have on the go?
Well, I'm glad that Rose Parade is back, because it got taken off the table when we all went on national hiatus. So that's really great. So our theme this year is Dream, Believe, Achieve. So ding, 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 that's a great one. And I am producing these true crime shows and hopefully I'll have something to announce pretty soon there, so that's very exciting. And, other than that, I'm shifting my life into what can I learn now? How do I want to express myself now? I'm really enjoying my life. I'm just so grateful, and I'm enjoying my adult kids, and I'm very present and aware that I'm tremendously lucky.
So you're not slowing down. You're not retiring anytime soon.
No, I mean, retirement is just kind of that weird word. But people always said to me, "Oh, what would you do without work? And you're a workaholic, and you're, driven." And, okay, that may have been the way things seemed, or that may have been the track that I was on. But, we all are capable of shifting into different gears, and we all have times when we want to be in a different gear, and we need to kind of take our new dreams out for a test drive and see, does that still fit? Is that still who I am? Because the last thing any of us want is to be stuck in a narrative that's no longer our story, or we want to rewrite that story, and we just didn't take the position as the author.
It's a fascinating way to look at life. I pause when you're making these statements because the words are hitting me, and it's just so impactful. So, they're wrapping me up, but I could talk to you forever, Leeza. But I want to thank you so much for calling in today and just being so optimistic and positive in a world where it's really hard to come by. So thank you so much for making the time. It's once again great chatting with you.
I appreciate you. I'm glad that we get to stay in touch, and as always, I'll be watching where you go and how you do it.
Maybe you'll be my first interview on the new project when you're launching your new things, okay?
Love it. Love it.
The wonderful Leeza Gibbons. Thanks for joining us today.
Hugs to you and yours. Bye for now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Celebrity phone once again lighting up. I never know who's calling in. It's always a surprise. Hello, you're on the air.
Jeremy, it looks like they finally got my letters, and they're finally taking you off the air.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay, this is the thing. This could be anybody. Let's just be honest. Any of our listeners have probably petitioned. Can you be more specific? Maybe give me a clue.
Okay, think Guy Smiley meets Ryan Seacrest.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Mulroney, everybody.
Jeremy, great to talk to you again.
Well, thanks for calling in. You're almost on the show more than I am. It's great. I appreciate you making the time.
Absolutely, of course. And for the final time, I would not miss it.
Okay, so let's rewind, though. 15 years, long time. Where were you in your broadcast career 15 years ago? And does it seem like it was yesterday?
15 years ago, we were in the early days of E-Talk. I'm pretty sure Canadian Idol was also on, so it was a busy time. It was an exciting time because as we were building that show, we were also helping sort of build a little bit of the Canadian entertainment scene infrastructure. This notion of red carpets was not something that was really done, let alone sending outlets from all over the country. There was an excitement over what we could do as a country, and I think we're well on our way. We have a lot of Canadians that find success in Canada and then export it, like say Schitt's Creek. Then you've got stars who make it elsewhere and come home and are proud to do so. A guy like Ryan Reynolds, who always waves the flag, and I think when you put all of that together, it makes for a really optimistic future for Canadian entertainment.
It's also crazy to think even just how broadcasting, how that landscape has changed, because you talk about the early days of Canadian Idol. I mean, I remember the press room. At the back of the press room, you had the major, daily newspapers, the local TV stations, the phone banks where you plugged in your modem to file your report. I mean, reporters certainly weren't asking for the Wi-Fi password, right? That wasn't even a thing. And we weren't doing selfies. I just kind of think about how things have changed. It's a completely different time now.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, when Canadian Idol aired, it was on once, and that was it. You never saw it again. Now everything exists on streaming platforms forever. So there's no such thing as missing something anymore. It's always there. It's always available, and that changes people's expectations, I think. There's still certain shows that even on streaming platforms, there's still this semi-communal viewing experience that happens. When a big show drops on one of the big streaming networks, everyone seems to gravitate to it at about the same time, and so it's different, but it's still the same. And the fact that so much has migrated to online, the fact that in a lot of ways the access that a show like eTalk probably has these days, they bypass the publicists altogether. They're the gatekeepers of the stars, and they go right to their Instagram, their TikTok, and their Facebook, and they learn the truth from that person almost directly. So that's a big change.
And I think something that we've seen, you mentioned the streaming services. That's where award shows have kind of got muddied, right? Because now there's so much, I don't know if the word is competition, but I mean, everybody can make a film, right? And there's really been a push to have that diversity. Obviously, there's been the scandals and things over the years. And I think maybe that's where people are losing interest, because if I haven't heard of the nominees as a TV viewer, do I want to spend 3 hours watching stuff that I've never even heard about? So I wonder if that's maybe where showbiz veterans kind of feel their industry is changing, maybe not for the good. The movie doesn't have that prestige anymore, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't know if the movies don't have prestige. I know that the notion of working on television has a newfound prestige. I mean, you look at the fact that a television show was able to bring on the likes of Meryl Streep for the first time. Kevin Costner made his television debut on Yellowstone. I mean, television these days I don't believe it's ever been better, and there's never been more of it that's been this good. And also these shows, in a lot of cases, require far less time from these stars than they used to. A network television show had a commitment of at least 8 months, right, which only gave you 4 months to go home, relax, maybe if you're lucky, do a small independent film, and that was it. Now you can get these stars for short-run seasons of like 4, 6, 8 episodes. They're not even required to be there for the duration of that shoot, which really frees up these stars to do much more with their schedules, which means you're able to go out there and get the biggest stars in the world for your television project. And the fact that show is if it's on something like Amazon Prime or Netflix, it already has. It doesn't have to be sold internationally because it already exists internationally. Right. You put all of that together, and there's no stigma for major movie stars to work on television anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Canadian entertainment reporters, we heard about the glitz and glamour of Hollywood before going there. And we've both covered our fair share of events in LA. Do you remember your first entertainment event in LA? What was your impression? Or maybe the bigger question, did it live up to your expectation?
So my two earliest memories that really stick out. The first one was my very first junket, and it wasn't in LA, it was in New York, and it was for the Muhammad Ali biopic starring Will Smith, Ali. And I sat down and I told Will Smith that this was my very first interview ever. And I got halfway through my first question, and he interrupted and he screamed, "Well, that's a stupid question, Ben." And it caught me off guard, and then we both had a big laugh and continued on. I'll never forget that. And then the next one, I'm sure it was in my first few years. I'd have to go back and see what the date was. But it was for the movie, what was it called? A Minority Report. Okay. And I was waiting to go do an interview with one of the members of the cast, sitting next to Roger Ebert. And I was furiously going over my notes to make sure that I had everything ready. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm just trying to get my questions straight." And he said, "Let me tell you, Ben, if you can't go into a room and talk to the star of a movie that you just saw yesterday for 3 minutes about that movie with curiosity and excitement and intelligent questions, then this is not the job for you." And it really put it into perspective for me, and it reminded me that people at home aren't looking for the smartest question. They're looking for memorable moments. They're looking for moments where you connect with the star in a way that elicits some sort of connection that they're not going to see on every single one of those shows where a different journalist has access to the same star for the same reason. And it really put everything into perspective for me that it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, but it does require the ability to just connect with somebody, if only for a minute or two.
Absolutely. I remember, yes, nervousness on my first red carpet, and then after doing them for a few years, I remember being able to pinpoint whose first red carpet it was, because they had, again, like a notepad of notes, and then there was even one person who was kind of standing there reading the questions. "I understand you have a new album, it's called," and I just thought, oh my God, I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, because sometimes you can be over-prepared on those red carpets, and you can have so much information in your head that it needs to come out, and unfortunately it comes out in a way, like it comes out in the form of overly complicated questions. And the next thing you know, you've asked a question that the only answer to the question is yes or no. Where you've got, let's go back to Will Smith, and you say, "Will, welcome back to the Oscars. You're here for Muhammad Ali, and I read that this was your first nomination, but you really put the work in, and you added 30 pounds of muscle." And then you look at you and go, "Yes." Now that's a terrible interaction with the star. You want them to say all that stuff. So I also learned that sometimes the key is to go in with just a little less information and a little more confidence that that's okay.
Have you had a moment where, and this is probably where people don't understand a red carpet, you're one of dozens of people there doing interviews, you're just the next one in line, right? It's like a conveyor belt, they go from spot to spot. When you're first starting out, most of these people have no idea who you are, but they seem like they care. Have you had a moment where they recognized you and remembered you and you never thought they would?
Yeah, I mean, it happened all the time with Tom Cruise. He's the champ at those red carpets, and it's always a wonderful thing because he attacks those red carpets with a ferocity and an intensity and an enthusiasm that you don't often see. Another person who did something similar would be Will Ferrell. But Will Ferrell has an interesting trick. What he has is he's got somebody with him who will whisper to him who the person is and something about them, so that when he walks up to them, he's able to say, "Hey, Ben, how's your new dog Bruce Wayne?" And it sort of reminds me of the assistant character on Veep, who's always whispering into Julia Louis-Dreyfus's ear before she meets somebody. But for my purposes, I don't care whether we're best friends or it just looks like we're best friends, so long as it translates into a really great moment for the audience.
What's the most Hollywood thing you've ever done or bought just because you could?
Well, just keep in mind I'm working Canadian television, so our budgets are far less extravagant. But I think a couple of times earlier on in my career, I might have splurged on a suite. Like if I was going down to Los Angeles or New York for a movie junket, I might have upgraded myself to have a suite so that Jessica and I could have a fun weekend. I think I bought a flat screen TV when they first came out. Not that there was a whole lot to watch in that aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably a flat screen and a hotel suite, I'd have to say.
I remember my first time covering Idol in Toronto. I was a little cocky, right? The guy from Winnipeg covering this big event in Toronto. So I was staying near the university. I bought a U of T sweatshirt. I don't know why, whatever. And then every time I wear it, people are like, "Oh, you went to U of T?" I'm like, "Yeah, for lunch." I stopped by Honest Ed's. Toronto people will know what I'm talking about. And then I just said to myself that I've got to buy something expensive because I'm here and because I can. I went to Banana Republic, bought a $140 sweater. Remember, I'm on Winnipeg money, and so that's a big deal at the time. And I took all these pictures of this sweater, price tag still on it. I had never worn it. It was years and years. And it's like I was waiting for the perfect moment. Or maybe it was just because it was too expensive. I didn't want to ruin it, by wearing it. So do you know all those years later what the perfect moment was?
What's that?
It was when I got the invite to cover Betty White's 90th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And I'm packing, figuring out what to wear, and then I opened the drawer, and it was like that moment in like TV and movies. The sweater had like that glistening halo. You're a producer, I don't know what that's called. And then I hear the angelic, ah. Do you have a story like that? Kind of just like,
Well, I do. Yeah, I do. I was, and again, I go back to Tom Cruise. It was for a movie junket, a movie that he had done with Cameron Diaz. I think it was called like Night and Day. And we went to Spain, and part of the junket was this fun thing where we'd get in a car with Cameron Diaz, and she was chasing Tom Cruise, who was on a motorcycle just ahead of her, and we were drifting through these narrow streets. It was either Barcelona or Seville, I'm not quite sure. And when we got done with the run, you get out of the car, and it's tricked out with cameras, obviously. When I got out of the car, he put his arm around me and he said, "Listen, I'm moving to Toronto to be with my wife," and that was Katie Holmes at the time, "and I'm bringing our daughter, and I'd love to know places for us to go and things for us to do." So I said, "Put me in touch, point to the person I should talk to." I assumed I wouldn't be dealing directly with him. "And I will make sure that I get this person a complete list of restaurants and fun places, as well as contact information of people that you can call who can offer you sort of the privacy that you probably need when you want to do these things." And so I took care of that when I got home, and put together a file of all sorts of restaurants and fun kids activities and locations in the city where they'd be left alone and that sort of thing. And this was over 10 years ago, because I remember my wife was still pregnant with the twins. I came home from work one day, and my wife said, who are Tom and Katie? And I said, "I don't know who Tom and Katie are." This was months later. And she said, "Well, because we just got this giant trunk full of toys from Tom and Katie." And I opened it up, and there was a note, and I'm like, exploding with toys. And I looked at it, like, "Jess, I think this is Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. I think they were thanking us for that thing." And so we still have I don't know if we have the toys anymore, because we've had a lot of grandkids in our house that we pass them on to, but we still have the trunk. and it was one of those moments where, like, that only happens if you have a job like this.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we've got to wrap this up because they're yelling at me. But what are they going to do? Fire me? Really? Two more things. So maybe you've already answered this. Which celebrity was totally different than what you expected?
Which celebrity was totally different than what I expected? Someone I really got along well with was Awkwafina.
Oh yeah.
Who's now going to be in the new Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings with Toronto's Simu Liu. Her name is Nora, but she goes by Awkwafina. And I had seen a lot of her videos online, and I had seen some smaller roles that she had in movies. And when I met her, she was so down to earth and so genuine and so wonderful, and it's just a regular person who just happened to be super talented at what she did. And it was just a really happy surprise, because I didn't expect it.
Finally, we know in journalism they always say you do what you got to do to get the story, right? You whatever you got to do. What was the greatest length you ever went to get a story or an interview?
Well, fortunately we have a team. We've always had teams at Your Morning and eTalk and wherever I've worked of great producers who do most of that legwork. But every now and then, just because an interview is set up doesn't mean it's going to happen the way it was anticipated. And if you've ever had to interview Mariah Carey, then you know that you're going to be waiting a long time. And I think I waited something like 6 or 7 hours past the time I was supposed to be interviewing her, just to get the interview. But once it happened, It was a glorious interview. What I find is almost everybody who's ever interviewed Mariah Carey has a story about how long they waited. It's like this rite of passage. You've got to get through that gauntlet in order to get that interview. And I don't know that in any other case, if it was any other star, we would tell these stories sort of with a negative spin. But when it's Mariah Carey, you say it with a smile on your face because it's just part of her lore. And once I got an interview with her, it was delightful.
It almost makes you think if she doesn't make you wait, there's trouble.
There's trouble. What did you do wrong? Why don't I warrant the 3 or 4 hour time delay?
Oh, well, Ben, I always love chatting with you. You've celebrated a whole bunch of my broadcast milestones, and you've always made time, so I really appreciate this. And you know what, when I'm no longer doing traditional or legit broadcasting, I hope you'll still answer my calls.
I promise I will. On to bigger and better things, Jeremy. Thanks so much and all the best, and congratulations.
Well, Ben Mulroney from CTV. I'm going to do this from CTV's Canadian Idol. One last time on the radio with me. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, buddy.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Well, it's almost the end of the show, everybody. My last show in 15 years. Still have not heard from Trudeau. I'm never going to get that Order of Canada thing. Just another letdown in my career, right? Although, here's the thing. The celebrity phone is once again lighting up. Could this be my chance? Let's go to the phone. Hello, Mr. Prime Minister.
Hey, Jeremy. Not yet, but hopefully soon. It's Jagmeet Singh. How's it going?
Oh! NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. It's good. How are you?
I'm well. I mean, it's tough for people, and I'm worried about folks, but I'm doing well personally. Everyone's healthy, so things are going well. You're okay?
Oh, you're worried about me after. What am I going to do after I get off the radio? Is that what your fear is, that I'm not going to get through this? Yeah, no, everything's good. I better warn you though. If you're calling to talk politics, you got the wrong number, my friend. You really do.
No, it's all good. I'm happy to talk about whatever. I'm open to any conversation.
You know what? And I appreciate this because we always see politicians on TV almost like as a character, not as a person. So if you're cool to have a regular conversation, like people, let's do it. I want to know more about you. Is that cool?
Always cool with that. Sounds great.
Okay, so what should I know about you? Now, this isn't a campaign stop. I don't want to know why you're, the best choice, blah, blah, blah. What are two maybe fascinating things about you that people generally don't know?
Two fascinating things. Okay, one is when I was in university trying to figure out life, at the same time I was taking care of my kid brother who couldn't stay at home because things were kind of tough at home. So I raised him when he was 15, going to high school. And I used to go to his parent-teacher meetings or take him into school, and people would be pretty confused because we looked like close in age, but I was acting as his guardian. So that's an interesting thing. It taught me a lot, and something that people don't always know. And the other thing is I love to cook. I cook all the time. Even if I've got a long day and I come home late at night, I'll always find time to cook. So I am obsessed with cooking.
Okay, so if you can spend a good hour and a half in the kitchen prepping, what are you making?
Okay, if I got a lot of time, I'm really getting good at pizza from scratch, everything from the sauce to the dough. I really enjoy getting a good, strong yeast going and getting the dough really delicious. So, yeah, I love a good pizza from scratch. I can do a pad thai and then lots of traditional Punjabi foods. So if I've got time, I'm probably making a couple of different things.
Okay, you only got 5 or 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes. 5 or 10 minutes, then I'll probably just do a quick stir fry. I got a cabbage stir fry that I do where the cabbage I slice up in a way that kind of replicates noodles. So it's kind of like a pad thai, but with cabbage instead. So I do high heat, some oil, and then I fry up the cabbage into like a noodle thing.
You're also a music lover. You can dance up a storm. I know that much. What was the first concert that you ever went to? The first concert you went to?
Oh, this is totally going to date me. But the first concert I ever went to was Paula Abdul.
Oh.
I went to, in Detroit, and it was awesome. I was a huge fan. I had a crush on Paula Abdul for sure. So, yeah, it was really fun.
Paula Abdul was your celebrity crush?
When I was a kid, no doubt. And both me and my best friend, Waleed Mansour at the time, we both, had huge crushes, had the posters up, everything. and that was my first concert. I think he'd gone to one before that, but that was my first for sure.
And I got to tell you, one of my first, was the first American red carpet that we covered was American Idol, and Paula was one of the first celebs that we had. So look at that connection.
Wow, connections, love them.
Okay, so let's go to present day. Who is your celebrity crush now?
Ooh, you know what? I don't know if I'm allowed to have a celebrity crush right now. I would not be cool with that. But you know who we both have a lot of love for is Rihanna. She's really cool. Love that she used her platform to talk about social justice. Also, I'm super honored that she follows and we've been able to chat over DM. So yeah, she's probably someone that I think is super dope.
Okay. Actually, yes, and Paula follows me on Twitter. So look at that. There we go.
Connections abound.
You've had some interactions with, I know, famous American politicians, but have you had any Hollywood celebrity run-ins?
I have. I was at a TIFF party years ago, and this is normally very out of character for me because I never get shy or nervous, ever. It's one of my things. I just don't get shy. In big performances, or I have to put on a big speech, or I have to do a big event, I never choke up. That's just not my thing. I'm always confident. But in this moment, I was at a TIFF party, and Julia Roberts was there, and she needed to say hi to someone that was directly behind me, and the party was quite packed. So she kind of ended up almost hugging me, reaching over to tap the shoulder of someone behind me that she wanted to say hi to. And there's Julia Roberts, and I'm right beside her, and she's kind of almost hugging me, and I don't know what to say, so I kind of froze in that moment. So we didn't actually meet. She probably would never remember it, but I absolutely remember the moment, and I just froze up.
Okay, so you mentioned TIFF, for people who might not, Toronto International Film Festival. If you, on a Saturday night, are going to watch a movie, outside of a pandemic, of course, are you going to a movie theater, or are you watching at home?
Oh, I love theaters. I am all about the theaters. I'm worried, though, that people are saying that there's going to be a whole new climate of movies after the pandemic, but I'm hoping that theaters are still a part of that because I love the experience, going to the theater, the popcorn, the music, the big screen. As good as your experience can be at home, it still doesn't match a good movie watch in a theater.
Have you noticed that, though? You could make popcorn at home. It is never the same as when you go to a theater.
No, nothing's the same. Like, you can have an awesome sound system, you can have a great TV, but there's just something very magical about the movie theater experience, and I love it. I love going to movies and just losing yourself in those moments when you're there and having lots of fun. Okay, so
if I'm going to give you the day off and you can lose yourself anywhere in Canada, again, when there's no pandemic, I give you the plane ticket and I say, go. Where are you going and what are you doing?
Ooh, you know what? This reminds me of something I did when I was a lot younger. I was in transit and the flights got bumped around, and I hadn't traveled much at the time, but I had an opportunity to go to Vancouver for a day, basically. The way the flights worked out, they routed me through Vancouver, and they said, we'll give you a layover there if you want. And I had a day in Vancouver, and that day still stands out to me. I went and biked around Stanley Park. I love biking, so I got to get a bike. I hiked up Grouse Grind, so I got to hike up a mountain, and then I jumped in the ocean, which to me is like a perfect day. Swimming, biking, and hiking. I did all three, and at the same time got to enjoy an amazing lunch at an awesome restaurant in Vancouver. So that was a really special day to celebrate a lot of the beauty of Canada and being outdoors.
So you love Vancouver. Pick one, Vancouver Canucks or Winnipeg Jets?
Well, you know, I know you're from Winnipeg, so I got to be very careful about this question. And this question is very dangerous for a politician in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was born in Toronto, so I don't think folks would hold it against me if I say Toronto Maple Leafs to kind of give you a third option because I was born there. But now I represent Burnaby, so I kind of feel like I got to say Vancouver. So I'll stick with Toronto because and I was born there, so folks won't hold it against me.
You know, I said no politician answers, but I think, you just can't help yourself, eh?
Well, this one is just, still, you always got to think about the city you were born in, so it's always special to reflect on that.
Well, hey, you know what? Again, my brother's from Winnipeg, and Vancouver Canucks is his favorite team. So, it doesn't necessarily... That's the weird thing, right? That people assume that just because you're in a city or from a city that it's got to be your favorite team.
Right, it's true. Actually, being a Winnipeg lad, are the Jets still your favorite team, or what's it for you?
I don't even follow sports. So it's hockey? Is that what you're saying? This is hockey?
Yeah.
Okay. I've gone to a few games. I've gone to a few games, and I actually was at a media day one time, and I was beside, I don't even remember who he was. He was either not the owner or the general manager or something, and we were doing pictures, and I posted it on Facebook, and people were freaking out that I was with so-and-so from the Jet. He wasn't a player, he was just one of the big guys. It meant nothing to me. Like, I was just kind of like, I don't know who that was. So, maybe I'm not Canadian after all. How would you describe Canada in one word?
Oh, I think it's one of the best places in the world to live. That is, I'm so honored to be able to be a part of, and needs work, and we're going to work on that together.
One word, come on.
One word, amazing.
All right.
Love it.
You know what? We've got to go. I appreciate your time. This is really cool that you called in on my last show, and like I said, I think it's important that we get to know people who are in charge, and we know them as a person, not a politician. So let me thank you, the NDP's Jagmeet Singh, for joining us on the 15th anniversary broadcast. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
My pleasure, and I know you're going to go off to do amazing things in the future beyond the show. So good luck, and congrats in advance.
Thank you. It's going to be the dark side of podcasting and YouTube. I just have this feeling.
It's going to be great, whatever it is.
Well,
congrats on an amazing career with this show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yes, I'd love that. Take care.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. So just how cool was that? I mean, I guess, yes, it was a tribute to me, but at the same time, when I think about 15 years ago, starting out, as I mentioned, in my parents' basement, just this guy who was on an internet radio station, had really no reputation, no formal training in radio. I mean, I was just, I had been in college, hadn't had a job and it hadn't worked in the industry. Just liked talking. Just liked the idea of, saying something and then having it go out on the airwaves. And then look at what that turned into, right? I mean, those, starting to cover red carpets in Toronto and then thinking, I wonder if I could cover something in LA. I wonder if I'd be able to be on a Hollywood red carpet. And then, fast forward a couple years later, going and doing it. And I mean, and the opportunities came fast and furious at that point. I mean, right now on the wall behind me in the studio here, we have my, my press passes from, 2010, 2011. And I sit there going, 10 and 11 years ago that I was at that event covering America's Got Talent or The Voice or Celebrity Apprentice or, the TV Land Awards. Like, it's just ridiculous when I go, it doesn't seem like it was 10 years ago. And then taking that one step further and thinking, what's happened in my life since then? When did the radio show peak? Was it peaking then? Because at that point we were only, 4 or 5 years into it. Was it just kind of did we keep going higher and higher and then go out, or did we fizzle out? What happened? I mean, my interest certainly fizzled out, as I mentioned at the top of the show, but Yeah, it was just a crazy, wild ride when you look at the opportunities. And then, over the recent years of travel programming that we did, right? We ended up 3 times a year basically just going on vacation, and I'm being paid to travel and do stuff that you, as a vacationer, would have to pay for. I mean, again, pretty sweet deal to have a radio platform and go, I feel like we should go to Mexico. Oh, we should go to, Fort Lauderdale. Oh, we should go and do this. And then we get tourism boards paying us to do it. Like, it was ridiculous. So I don't take any of it for granted. I mean, I've got, so many battle scars, mainly emotional scars and memories that and there's some of them where you just I don't think that anybody would appreciate them or even just kind of understand. So you keep them to yourself, right? It's just like, that's just a story that is just for me from being, life on the road or whatever it is. But again, 15 years on the radio was ridiculous. It was crazy. It was wild. It was fun. It was exciting. And then after a while, you just sort of get blasé about it, where, you'd come home and people are like, oh, how was the red carpet? Or, oh, how was that? And you're just kind of like, it was just another red carpet, right? Like, you're just kind of, you brush it off. So anyway, my thanks to all of those celebrities who joined me on the radio show throughout the past couple of months as I signed off. As I mentioned, we did a finale in Nashville. I don't know when we might have the audio on the podcast here at some point in the summer, but I don't know. Either way, thanks for listening. This is a super-sized scribble for an hour and a half. I'm Jeremy Bradley. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye for now, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.